There was thawing, of course. You know, you sort of kind of realise that I'm part of the family now, type thing. But I've still got a lot to prove. So you're taking the first big step.
Everyone's very motivated. You motivate each other. It's just a really good atmosphere to be in. Guys are really clicky.
Maintain a high degree of readiness. They must maintain a high standard of training, because certainly the climate that we live in now, you just never know if something's going to happen.
Although they are now part of the New Zealand SAS, the unit's 5 newest troopers are on a 2-year probation to prove they have the right stuff.
You're going to be the dog's body, you know. You are going to sweep, you are going to volunteer for everything. So you're still pretty low down the food chain.
There's a period where they go through and flesh you out. You've only got the basic skills and they need a lot of refining.
As they begin their 2nd week in the squadron, the 5 are about to discover what being a Special Forces soldier means today. The battlefields of open desert and thick jungle are no longer the sole arena for SAS missions.
Over time, it's moved from strategic reconnaissance and hit-and-run raid activities to countering terrorism.
Would-be opponents of the West learned from Gulf War I that you have to fight asymmetrically. That is, you have to get underneath the conventional force umbrella of larger established states.
Conventional warfare has given way to guerrilla strikes, hostage situations, and acts of terror.
That is the nature of the forces that we're up against in the world today. Far more than any conventional threat to New Zealand, we face the threats of terrorist groups, of insurgency groups.
And that's where Special Forces come in. Special Forces fight the asymmetric warrior like an asymmetric warrior. They meet him where he lives. They take the battle to him in the same measure that he would take it to the West.
As NZ SAS soldiers, they must learn to counter this threat with maximum efficiency. At this battle training facility, painstaking hours are spent acquiring these skills.
Wow, your weaponry, you can never be too good at it.
As unit troopers, the pressure is really on to up their game to SAS satisfaction.
Load action, we're going for the top left target. Stand by. Up! Unload, clear weapons.
You can't have an error, you just got to be good at it.
Good grouping, tighten it up.
But things are about to get a whole lot tougher.
Up!
Next, they must train with a gas mask and full body armour, and these high-tech battle fatigues come with their own set of handicaps.
It gives you sort of like tunnel vision, so you've got to move your head a lot more.
Drills that once seemed instinctive have to be relearned to cope with this radically different perspective.
You've been doing all these drills, all this training, without anything interfering, and suddenly just a little 1 millimetre, 2 millimetres is just putting you off balance.
Okay, first target, top centre.
At first, everything seems impossible.
Suddenly you got this little handicap, and it becomes a little frustrating to start off with.
Ensuring they can shoot with accuracy means spending day after day in the battle training facility.
You'll be on that range every day, from morning till dusk, maybe into the night, just to get that one shot right.
It's a vital skill that has saved the lives of NZ SAS troopers in the past.
We heard these Vietnamese voices yapping. I said, Jesus, what's that? He said, Charlie.
A New Zealand SAS patrol would have one more deadly task to perform at the end of an 8-day reconnaissance of the jungles of Vietnam.
And then on the last day, we're probably starting to stink a bit that someone sort of got suspicious. One of the guys sort of come past and stopped out front. Heard a scrape and because we'd only been there a short time, I didn't really know what it was. I thought it was a cigarette lighter, but later on, now that I know, that was actually the safety catch on his AK. Yeah, he was suspicious, but probably gutless, you know, didn't want to ever go, because if he had done anything, he was all over for him. My plan was to have 4 of us in the killer group. So we're lying there and we, well, a couple came, so. What I did was, I just aimed my rifle, and when his chest hit the sight, so I just operated the trigger. And I think we're in a really high state of excitement at this stage of the game, and the body didn't look like a body, it just looked like a bundle of rags actually. And I thought that he'd dropped his pack and scarf, and that I'd missed the bugger. Oh man, I was shaking like Billy-O, you know. I didn't feel frightened, it was just that that's how my body reacted, and I was really used to shake like buggery, yeah.
40 years on, the SAS's newest counter-terrorism troopers must adjust to life in a gas mask to learn the latest CT tactics.
It makes it harder to breathe, so again your fitness levels need to be up there.
In this first month, they're weaned into a world of limited vision and controlled breathing until it becomes natural to every action.
A lot of training is done in the gas mask so that the soldiers get used to wearing it. So when they have to wear it, they're comfortable.
The importance of performing with masks is about to be made abundantly clear.
It was something on the CT course that you lived in.
It's time for these soldiers to personally experience a deadly threat which traces back to the First World War.
Chemical, biological and radiological.
Agent 15, sarin, soman, cyclosarin, hydrogen cyanide, all deadly chemical weapons. Now the soldiers must get a taste of what they're up against.
We need to be able to operate in those environments should the worst possible situation occur.
They will be exposed to a chemical compound, painful but not lethal.
The exposure to, gases, sprays and all that makes you, I can cope with this, it's going to be over and done within 5 seconds.
A dish of chlorobenzyl malonitrile, better known as CS gas, is cooked in a confined space. Now the gas masks, which have become their second skin, are removed.
You've got to be in there and taste it and experience it.
The effects of the CS gas are instant.
Oh, it's not nice. It's horrible.
Yeah, it hurts. It really hurts.
But pain is a necessary part of learning.
Yep, been here before. Yep, breathe, breathe, breathe. Yep, clean my eyes up. Hey mate, I've just been hit with this. Cool, clean up, keep going forward.
This is just the start of counter-terrorism training for the new troopers. Their next training phase will prepare them to infiltrate New Zealand's largest city.
With a lot of weapon skills in in-room combat, you learn to think quickly on your feet. You have to. If you can't, then you'll make a mistake. You make a mistake and someone will die.
You've got to pick up threats or something that's not quite right and deal with it straight away.
You've got to know that it's a target to shoot, to kill, or it's a safe one. Could be somebody putting his hands up there unless you see the weapon. So, within the fraction of a second, the guy's got to learn how to react.
Week 6 inside New Zealand's SAS headquarters. And the unit's 5 newest soldiers are ready to move to the next level of counter-terrorism training. Rehearsal for missions in urban settings.
All attempts by the police negotiating team to contact the terrorists have so far failed. The only communications have been a terrorist yelling from the doorway of the building, if the police approach, the hostages will be killed.
Tempo just ramps up a little bit more. There is no sort of, this is, just a rehearsal. There's an end, there's a goal.
By now they're living, breathing the SAS life. Even their response time on a day off is tested.
You could be at the movies. Beeper goes off, give the girl a kiss and hand over your jaffers and off you go.
There's a set procedure to every step.
In today's world that we live in, there are real threats out there. Threats that can materialise almost instantaneously.
This training is not for if, but when.
The mission, the CTT, is to move by 1800 hours today. The wrecking car is already gone, and that was the OC Delta 1, 12 and the SIG. I want INT 6.
Until now, the 5 new troopers have been blooded into A Squadron's broad counter-terrorism training.
All right, lads, disappear.
Now each man must learn the functions of working in a small counter-terrorism patrol.
You do have to start from the bottom and receive the counsel and wisdom of those who have gone ahead, because they will learn innovative techniques. They will know the specific improvisations required for various theaters.
You're ultimately the fourth wheel to a patrol that's on operations. Do they trust you? Are you going to hold up? Are you going to be good enough?
Got a schematic of the interior. It's just a basic 4-room layout. Don't take too long.
You keep your mouth shut and you learn off them. That's what you do.
This patrol is preparing to clear rooms and search for hostages in an exercise designed to sharpen reactions.
Your senses now are really fired up. You focus on capturing what mental images you had in your head before you went through, i.e. what the layout of the rooms were.
Though sometimes compared to Secret Agent James Bond, in reality SAS soldiers have no license to kill.
Stand by, go.
Their actions are strictly governed by domestic and international laws.
Everything's split second.
Working at speed, the patrol aims to neutralise the terrorist threat without harming the civilians. For the new troopers, the consequences of any mistakes have been drummed home.
That training could be the difference between an innocent, the difference between you going to prison.
For the 5 new troopers, striving to attain SAS standard while mastering the complexities of counter-terrorism brings extra pressure.
That's the tricks of the trade. It's business.
So they must practice and practice. Everything is preparing them for potential domestic or international operations.
We're New Zealand Security Forces, we're here to rescue you.
And they bide their time for the chance to fight in the international war on terror.
Room is not safe. Gas.
First year in the black role, it was a huge learning curve again. You're really homing your skills.
Now the new troopers move to the infiltration phase of counter-terrorism training. During cycle, they learn the basics of helicopter infiltration in an open environment. Now they must train for very different terrain, an assault on New Zealand's largest city.
May be just where the SAS have to exercise their skills in the event of a terrorist attack.
Like most NZ SAS missions, the infiltration will be done under the cover of darkness. There is no margin of error above the Queen City, with the weight of each soldier's body armour and weaponry adding to the challenge of unpredictable winds.
You've done the drill so many times, you know something's wrong and you'll focus back on it. But some things you just got to become instinctive.
A concrete structure replaces soft grass. This training is a far cry from actual combat infiltration, because there are no enemy bullets here. But in Vietnam in 1969, an NZ SAS patrol would be fighting for their lives after a chopper infiltration.
You really didn't. I didn't worry, and I don't think anybody else did too much about the fact that you're going to be killed, and if you're killed, you're killed.
The patrol was about to step straight into the sights of a waiting enemy.
And we went into this huge deserted rice paddy on the edge of some scrub. It was to be a 5-day patrol, if I remember rightly.
Their planned 5-day mission would last only a matter of minutes once the Kiwis entered the scrub full of silent Vietnamese.
The patrol lasted 26 minutes and we covered 26 metres. It was a hive of activity of whatever the enemy were. I couldn't tell you whether they were North Vietnamese or Viet Cong because it was the wet season and the grass was very, very tall.
The soldiers scrambled to await a helicopter extraction.
It was a big clearing, so there's quite a bit of time when you're exposed to the possibility of ground fire.
Holding their nerve, the 5 New Zealanders fired over 400 rounds and launched 25 grenades.
If everybody's yelling and shouting and nobody's listening, then it's chaos, isn't it? And we all stayed in a little tight bundle while they sorted out the tree line with gunfire.
Finally, armoured helicopters came to the aid of the besieged Kiwis. Escaping the overwhelming odds, it was one of the shortest missions in the entire Vietnam War. It's now time for the unit's newest troopers to face their most challenging counter-terrorism exercise. Infiltration by night into downtown Auckland.
At night, swarming on top of a high-rise building, you don't want to miss the spot.
As they train, the 5 know there can be no mistake.
They accept the challenge and they make it happen. They find a solution. They don't know about the word can't. They just say, well, if this is what we've got to do, well, we'll do it and find a way to do it.
They became determined. They became extra alert. They're kind of, all their senses were finely tuned.
In the final analysis, I think it's just their ability to think outside the square.
The New Zealand SAS's newest troopers are now into their 8th week of counter-terrorism training.
Our soldiers need to be comfortable working in built-up areas because they're the same skills that they're going to have to be drawn on when they go into other theatres around the world.
That includes gaining access to any building, known as method of entry, or MOE. This footage of the Iranian embassy siege is one of the few records of SAS forces in action using MOE.
We are used in the worst possible case where deadly force is necessary.
The new troopers have moved to a training centre designed to refine their method of entry techniques. Whether rescuing hostages or assaulting an enemy force on foreign soil, their actions must be honed and sharpened to split-second precision.
The keys to success generally have to do with stealth, surprise, and maneuver. Whether you do it in an urban scenario or whether you do it in a rural scenario is a tactical matter, but the strategy remains the same. You get the jump on the opponent before he becomes aware.
The method of entry bunker is one of the deadliest facilities in which the new troopers will train.
The purpose of that environment is to allow the soldiers to practice realism. And also in the MOE house they can do mechanical and explosive entry techniques.
Their first challenge, to gain access to the building with live explosives. The slightest error could prove fatal.
Black rolls is pure punch.
With method of entry, the 5 troopers are taught that every conceivable route into a building must be exploited.
It's about having a bit of brain power, a bit of thought. Brutality, using brains, that's how we get into places.
It's intensive training. The new troopers rehearse and rehearse for the real event, knowing on the actual day, nothing can be left to chance.
You just got to get it right, you know, and you tested on it, making sure your skills are up there.
The 5 work on method of entry tactics, using many forms of transport, and at all hours of the day and night.
I don't believe there's ever been a Prime Minister who hasn't seen the team and been impressed. We had put them in our training house, I'll call it, and we had a couple of balloon-headed terrorists alongside them. We were talking quietly to them, and suddenly in burst the team, and using live rounds, suddenly there were no balloons on the heads of the terrorists. And the sort of shock impact, without trying to wipe out our Prime Ministers and shock them too much, the shock impact, I think, was essential to them understanding the power and the capability of the team. You know, it gave them a huge confidence.
Deep inside the MOE house, counter-terrorism skills are taken to the limit.
You've got to be concentrating all the time because it's live rounds.
In this suffocating environment, danger lurks at every turn, so teamwork and 100% awareness are paramount.
It is serious, extremely serious if you do make a mistake. And even whilst in training, a mistake could mean your buddy.
Storming through locked doors with live explosives, the new troopers must save the hostages by neutralising the enemy.
Your awareness needs to be heightened. Your recognition needs to be honed.
Bang, you're in there, you're looking at women and children. Decision's back on you. Make a decision.
The only way that you're going to win is to ensure that you've got a heightened sense, really, and your reactions are a lot quicker than everybody else.
In the MOE house, mistakes can be rectified, but in the real world, that luxury doesn't exist.
And what happens if you're shooting at 2 men and they put women in front of them? Those 2 men, you know, are on a plane to kill 5,000 people. You're going to make a decision.
All weapons, I should hear. All weapons clear. All weapons clear.
For this patrol, it's been a textbook exercise.
A trooper that joins this unit should be able to analyse a situation and get it sorted.
Because they've picked you for your attitude, they've picked you for your learning ability, so there shouldn't be a problem.
All weapons clear. All weapons clear.
This is the last phase of training in a controlled environment. Now the 5 new troopers will be tested in a real urban area. Since 9/11, the battlefields have moved to the cities of the world.
It was entirely an offensive operation that meshed all the elements of guerrilla warfare in one fell swoop. Surprise, maneuver, economy of force, and symbolism.
In counter-terrorism training for urban environments, the squadron must infiltrate an actual city, in this case, Auckland.
Auckland's simple. Auckland is a simple city. It's not a very big city. The buildings represent a small suburb in America.
At dusk, the exercise begins. 3 months of training have centred on this night.
You know the aim. You've been given all the tools to achieve that aim.
You can't afford mistakes. You can't afford mistakes because people get hurt.
I mean, you've done rehearsals, you've done practices. You're at the high end of it now. You're expecting everyone else to do their job.
2 blacked-out helicopters take the new troopers on their first urban assault operation. Their goal is to land safely on designated targets above Auckland streets, then descend without being discovered. It's taken less than an hour for the choppers to reach the very heart of New Zealand's largest city. Using Auckland's bright lights to illuminate the way, the pilots steady the helicopters. For the troopers, their focus is purely on landing safely and undetected.
Just got to have a firm grip on the helicopter. Don't let go.
With an unsuspecting city below them, the helicopters approach the drop zone. Suddenly, the wind picks up.
There's so many things going on. You've got to trust other people to get their jobs done right. You've got to put some trust back in those helicopter pilots.
Countless hours of training have come to this. 300 metres above Queen Street, and against the backdrop of Auckland's iconic Sky Tower, the troopers begin their descent. The first part of the urban infiltration has gone according to plan. All troopers are safe and unseen by anyone. Across the city, the second operational team are also well underway as Auckland goes about its business, oblivious to the events quietly unfolding on its rooftops. Now the troopers must rapidly descend 63 stories. The urban assault is a success. The 5 new troopers have proven they can take a city. Next, they must prepare for the challenge that is the ultimate nightmare of any government, anywhere. In their first 90 days in the NZ SAS, the 5 new troopers have learned advanced counter-terrorism skills and earned the respect of their peers.
The main focus there is gaining trust through performance, because everybody's so competitive, everybody's so driven.
But the greatest test of their short time in the unit is about to unfold. Now they must prove themselves in a full squadron exercise, which replicates an escalating trend in the world of terrorism, a hostage situation. A video reveals armed terrorists with civilian hostages, and the NZ SAS is called to undertake a counter-terrorism rescue. It will test everything the 5 new men have learned since joining the unit. Negotiations for the hostages' release have failed. With execution looming, the unit must respond. In a combined operation with police and other armed forces, the NZ SAS will spearhead a rescue attempt involving the 5 new troopers.
So obviously the police and the wider New Zealand Defence Force performs a role in terrorist-related incidents. At one end of the spectrum, our unique skills may be called upon.
This exercise has taken months of planning and is conducted as a real hostage crisis.
It's very real, and you can't afford to make errors on it. And it's testing everything you've learned.
For the 5 new troopers, the experience has been intense. Now they must show their peers they can perform under extreme pressure.
The internal pressure within the unit to perform it's horrific. And they're seeing what your decisions are. Everyone's seeing what your decisions are.
Carefully, NZ SAS marksmen and surveillance teams move into position.
It's all very much black and white, really. Know your enemy, and out of that comes strengths and weaknesses.
Inside, military personnel are playing the roles of hostages and hostage takers with a chilling realism.
This is all about training and testing of our training procedures, so the information that's picked up from outside has to look realistic.
With surveillance established, the unit prepares in a state of constant readiness.
What they then need to do is to react to events as they unfold and come up with a plan to defeat the terrorists.
You're thinking about what you're going to be doing, the training, go through your drills.
The unit waits for night to begin the rescue.
This is exactly what the SAS have been training for. They were the people who had those skills. If it went beyond a police emergency, then there had to be somebody to back them up.
They have to be able to be calm, and they have to be the storm at the other end of it.
The good old thing of the dawn raids is sort of gone. We love the night. We're better equipped for it.
The clock is ticking, but the soldiers must be patient for the right moment to spring their rescue attempt. For the 5 new troopers, 11 weeks of counter-terrorism training have reached a climax. They prepare in calm to bring on the storm.
You're up, game faces on.
As the deadline for execution looms, the squadron readies for action.
You get one chance to get it right. So the pressure is on.
You know, you've got to perform.
The counter-terrorism teams move into position with silence and precision. The 5 new troopers have met expectations, yet each knows this is only a dress rehearsal for the real thing.
Exercise you always take seriously, but you're still that one step off 110%, aren't you? You know, operations is life and death.
The hostage exercise marks the end of the counter-terrorism phase for the 5 new troopers.
The CT or second phase is almost like the home straight. You are feeling a little more like you're part of it, because at the end of that course you can be deployed.
Now the 5 will prepare for what every NZ SAS soldier aspires to: overseas deployment.
Everyone joins the unit to go on operations. You know, it's what everyone aspires to do.
It's all you're here for, is to do your job. Yeah, you're here to do your job.
Next week, our cameras will follow the 5 new troopers as they undertake advanced combat training. For the first time ever, you will see how NZ SAS soldiers prepare for the ultimate military experience: overseas deployment.
program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.
Speaks for itself. It's so you can get in there and do your job.
On cycle, the three prove their basic parachute ability.
Dangle and thump, you know, you fall and you hit the ground hard.
He has to learn how to jump out of a plane at freefall level, if that's to be a speciality.
For Air Troop's three newest soldiers, the objective is to freefall from altitudes up to 12,000 feet, navigating long distances across the sky completely on their own. There is absolutely no margin for error. The first port of call is not a Hercules transporter, but a simulator. Here, the three troopers can learn the art of skydiving without risking life and limb. But it takes time to master freefall.
It will take them a number of years to accrue the necessary experience to become a master freefall within the troop. You know, he's at the bottom of the pile of experience.
Finally, Air Troop's new members are deemed ready for their first solo freefall jump. Freefall SAS style bears no resemblance to recreational parachuting. Its purpose is to transport armed soldiers to specific locations without them being seen. At high altitude, the air becomes so thin that breathing without aid can lead to a blackout. But that's not the only obstacle for Air Troop's three new soldiers.
I reckon the military can wreck anything that could be fun in the civvy world. They put a big pack on you, tell you to get out the back door.
Once out the back, the added weight of the pack sends them hurtling towards Earth at 140 miles per hour. As the air rushes past, each man battles to remain balanced. Once in control, the three must navigate to the landing zone. To get there, they become human rockets as they propel across the sky. Over the landing zone, the canopy's open. It's been a textbook air infiltration.
It leads to this process of continuous improvement. Everybody wants to do better next time, and the next time, and the next time, and you're constantly trying to get better and better and better. And it also means that you get to the stage very quickly in a small group of men where you know you can absolutely trust the person in front of you and behind you and to your left or your right.
Before the 5 new troopers will be sent on an overseas deployment, there is much to learn. But their time will come soon enough.
Unlike a lot of conventional forces, they will see action early and often in their operational life.
The operational tempo of the New Zealand Defence Force since the 90s has been incredible, with all the deployments to the UN type operations and then the problems closer to home.
On every wall of the NZ SAS headquarters are images and symbols which act as a daily reminder to its newest members of what being part of this unit is all about: active combat. Too small to fight alone, the New Zealand SAS has proven its ability to fight with its international allies in any theatre of war for more than 50 years. Whether in jungle or desert, the NZ SAS's hallmark is versatility. From Malaya in the 50s to the American-led war on terror in Afghanistan today.
Their ability to undertake challenging missions, to then deliver on those missions.
To go in to do the reconnaissance work that is required and to be involved in the direct action that is required. The SAS have been involved in those sort of operations. They have done their work well. They have been respected by the other forces that they've worked with.
They received a presidential citation for their work alongside American Special Forces in Afghanistan.
If you walk into any bar in Fort Benning, Georgia, where the U.S. Army Special Forces Command is located, and you walk in that bar and you throw down your coin, as it's said, which identifies you as New Zealand SAS, you will be shouted beers until far into the night.
World-class standards and tremendous versatility is what makes a New Zealand SAS soldier. The 5 new troopers are conscious they must prove they have the right stuff too. To function as a highly effective small patrol, the 5 must hone their skills.
Within the patrol, we need an advanced medic, an advanced signaller, we need a tracker, we need a demolitions expert.
We put that all together, and that makes a pretty awesome patrol, doesn't it?
For 15 intensive weeks, the new troopers advance their individual skills.
The main reason we get into photo compression is to reduce the transmission time on the radio. The longer you transmit, the more chance there is that you'll be detected.
We operate only in small teams, so you've got to be able to pick up different skill sets.
As part of a small NZ SAS patrol, the 5 must show they have the versatility and variety of disciplines to cope with any situation.
You can't have a unit of just specialists. You need to have cross-skills, cross-functional areas.
Move! Hand-to-hand combat is taken to the next level.
Presume your enemy is bigger, stronger, fitter, faster, more skilled, bent on killing you, and he's armed. If it's kill or get killed, the first thing that he should know is that his airway's been destroyed. The spinal cord's been severed, a finger's gone through his eyeball, his leg is broken.
It's very much about aggression, but at the same time it's also about control.
This is about the most elemental aspects of warfare. One man against another man in the field, using their wits and guile to defeat each other, often in a very deadly embrace.
During this time, the 5 are also taking their troop skills to expert levels. The amphib troop members work on distance and depth in their diving. Those in air troop increase their heights and distances travelled and at night. And mountain troop adapts ground skills to fit the unique terrain. Wherever possible, the 5 are introduced to real-life settings using live rounds. Here, enemy communications are the designated target of this unopposed mission. While a beach headland is the object of an amphibious assault. Finally, the 15 weeks is over. Next up, a return to inhospitable Waiouru.
You take it for granted when you're training together, because you're just training, or you're going to war together. But underneath it all, you're building up this close friendship and trust that'll last you, even better than your own family ties.
Maybe you rely on each other, your life. You're reliant on the guy next to you. To look after you when things are happening and your life's on the line.
You've got to have feelings or else you won't survive. Yeah, you've got to worry about other people, not only yourself. That's the whole thing about the 4 men or the 5-man patrol.
In their 5th month of their advanced NZ SAS training, the unit's 5 new troopers are back at Waiouru.
As soon as you get to that signpost saying Waiouru, it starts raining. Guaranteed.
Here on cycle, they learnt a variety of weapons and tactics as they forge basic SAS patrol skills.
They begin to specialize in a much more acute manner in the various disciplines that they're going to need in the places that they're going to be deployed.
Now they must advance these skills to operational level for potential deployment on missions to places like Afghanistan.
It's shining what you've got, taking the rough edges off it, and being able to employ it at the right time.
If you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's happening, you make sure your mates are right. You're watching their back.
Everything they've learned in this time at Waiouru will one day be applied in overseas deployment, gathering intelligence, tracking down enemy munitions, and calling in superior firepower.
Having the discipline, the long-term objectivity to get the information back to an airbase, back to people, so you can execute the bigger job.
As winter drags on, the 5 troopers continue to upskill their abilities. As a patrol, they learn to blend into the landscape. As specialist snipers working in pairs, they must merge seamlessly into any environment. Acquire the concentration to lie in wait for hours at a time. Yet able to respond at a moment's notice. And bullseye a target from up to 800 metres away.
How to pick where the enemy's going to be, how to pick where the enemy's been, how to pick where the enemy is likely to go, and how to pick the enemy before the enemy picks you.
After a long winter, the grounds begin to firm. By now, the 5 are working as an effective NZ SAS combat patrol. But as they practice more direct action training, this time with explosives, the 5 are conscious what they lack and want is actual operational experience. The unit commanders understand this frustration and impatience. They once had it themselves. And one Waiouru winter 50 years ago, so too did the original soldiers of the NZ SAS squadron, waiting for their first overseas deployment to help the British Special Air Service fight communist insurgents in Malaya.
The only way to get at them was to go into the deep jungle. And so this is why they had the SAS who could go into the deep jungle and stay there.
The odds were stacked against the Kiwis. A lack of necessary parachute experience would be their first major hurdle.
But there was an Irish fellow there, and Commander said to him, what do I do if one of these ropes break that I'm swinging on? And the instructor said, well, say after me, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and carry on.
Having trained in the snowy mountains of Waiouru, the New Zealanders were badly prepared for the humid jungle conditions, but they gritted their teeth and got stuck in.
Why we would train in the snows of Waiouru in preparation for the humidity and heat of Malaya remains to be a mystery. It was a complete change for us to go through the swamps and to experience the humidity, the rain, and the things like leeches.
You could hear the dead leaves. You could actually hear them rattle as the leeches came towards you. One guy had one up his penis, and we learnt later that you get a cigarette. That's what we did. Cigarette, you just touch them with a cigarette and they fall off.
Slowly, the originals grew accustomed to jungle ways. In particular, the Māori members helped greatly in winning the hearts and minds of locals, who in turn helped them train as trackers, providing vital intelligence.
In those days, I think it was just the attitude of New Zealanders working with other people that fomented that friendship and gained the information.
The originals developed new jungle warfare techniques.
You could only hear the sound of your own movement when you were moving quickly. You couldn't hear the sound of movement or any noise from the opposition.
So we decided to slow down, and we decided to get off the tracks, what we call contouring.
Perhaps we didn't cover as much ground, but I believe we covered the ground much more carefully.
The originals made such a huge impact in this jungle warfare, they were instrumental in bringing down the communists.
The jungle is the same for you and for your enemy. One who makes the best use of the jungle that survives.
Today, the legacy of the originals inspires the 5 new troopers. And after a winter of advanced training, they've taken their skills to the next level. But this training must be put into context.
The first time hopping off a helicopter in the middle of a foreign country, you're a long way from any help should you need it. That can be quite daunting.
The 5 will now take part in a squadron exercise mimicking operational conditions and pit them with experienced NZ SAS troopers.
Those are the guys that will take you and hone your skills.
As dusk falls, the mission begins with the 5 aboard. Their objective, the destruction of 2 enemy targets. The patrol will be dropped into water at speed, a highly risky manoeuvre. The reason the chopper can't slow to deposit the men is to prevent enemy radar from detecting their presence. Although the snows have thawed, the water remains icy cold, but here the soldiers must stay for several hours. By nightfall, the current has carried their numbed bodies closer to the targets. Now they split into 2 teams, the 5 spread among both. Up to their necks in the freezing water, the first team struggles to attach explosives to submerged power lines. The second team heads inland to the mock dam. Like any actual mission, where there is only one chance to complete the task, so too with this exercise. In total silence, the new troopers work to complete the exercise to the standard of their mission-proven colleagues.
You keep your mouth shut and you learn off them. That's what you do, because there's so many guys with amazing skills here.
With the explosives in place, the teams move quickly to their pre-arranged meeting point. On cue, the extraction chopper arrives and the teams are uplifted with all on board. But this is only the first part of the mission. The patrol's success tonight will be gauged by their objective being successfully completed. And it is. Tonight, the 5 have proved themselves amongst their peers. Their time at Waiouru is now over.
They're more physically robust, they're more mentally robust. Their level of expertise has gone up exponentially with the amount of training that they've had.
The next stage in their education can only come from deployment.
Well, that's what you've trained for. You know, fingers crossed, the beeper goes off, you're waiting, hopefully it's you.
Back at HQ, the 5 are invited to experience one of the unit's rare times of formality, and by its standards, pomp. This is the unit's annual regimental dinner, a living roll of honour, where rookies and veterans of the NZ SAS sit side by side.
It's probably the time where everyone sits and reflects. This unit's done a lot, and it will do a lot, and it's important that its heritage is respected.
Your country may be small in numbers, but it's a giant in the size of its contribution to the world. The greatest asset with which New Zealand is blessed is the quality of its people. And the New Zealand SAS epitomises all that is outstanding in this brave country.
Being among illustrious company makes the 5 troopers even more eager to deploy.
When you've got that heritage and that past, it gives strength to the guys, and they know that, you know, people have done it in the past, they can do it.
Those members here tonight from the original squadron and those past members of the unit, you can be assured that today's SAS group maintain the same ethos, strive for the same standards of excellence as you have done.
This is a defining moment for the 5 troopers as they are accepted into the brotherhood, that is, one NZ SAS. Soon, it will be their turn.
The guys all believed that you just couldn't just go cold on operations. There was always a live firing rehearsals before you went on any operation.
When I spoke to the other guys, they all went through the same process. And you train and train and train and train, and then all of a sudden you're really doing it.
We've got to understand
quite clearly, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, that Operation Claret means that if you are taken on the other side, all knowledge will be denied to your presence over there.
The international war on terror is hotting up. And New Zealand's involvement is being discussed.
If there is to be a deployment, there needs to be the political decision made by the government. Is this an operation that New Zealand should be involved in, and how can we best respond to that? If it is urgent, a small group of ministers will come together. The ministers will consider the situation, be briefed entirely on it. We'll consider whether the preconditions of a New Zealand deployment have been properly met.
For one NZ SAS, whether they deploy or not is in the hands of the government.
Everyone has to be prepared and have everything in order so that if short contingencies arise, then that they're in a position to respond.
While awaiting Wellington's decision, the unit trains to an operational level of capability, OLOC.
So we need to have our bags packed and the equipment on the shelves ready to use.
For the 5 troopers, experiencing OLOC will be as close as they get to the real thing.
If we look at Afghanistan, for example, strategic reconnaissance, looking at sensitive sites, exploiting sensitive sites in terms of where munitions have been kept.
In the event of such missions, the unit must be combat ready.
It starts thinking in when you start issuing more specialist equipment, you start focusing on jobs.
The 5 rehearse the dangerous parachute infiltration. At a military airbase, the soldiers run through the operation specifics over and over. First, they'll have to identify a landing spot chosen by agents on the ground. Upon landing, and without being detected, their mission objective is to find and then destroy an enemy weapon site. At some stage, they will encounter an opposing force.
It's a matter of ultimately giving you an insight and preparing you for the real thing.
As the 5 slip into the night, the countdown on this first taste of combat has begun.
People do get killed and hurt, but the job at the end of the day, which is the most important part, has to be completed, even if it's just you by yourself. And it's that type of ideology that the unit teaches. Somebody's got to do it, and you might be the last one in the patrol, and you still got to try and do that job to achieve the goal that was asked of her. And that's the difference between us and the outsiders.
In terrain which resembles the landscape of Afghanistan, a local agent prepares the landing site with a marker. This flare is the only guide for the parachutists. Weighed down with a full pack, weapons, night vision equipment and explosives, the journey to Earth is as dangerous as any mission they will undertake.
You could be falling into an abyss, pure darkness. It's freaky. It really is. You can't explain it unless you go and actually jump at night.
For the 5, the real test now begins. Taking formation, they arc across the sky. Accuracy is everything, with surrounding power lines, roads and lakes, all acting as obstacles to the infiltration.
Once you hit the bottom, it's the beginning of your job, You're not only thinking about how you're going to get in, but you're thinking about your mission. Get it done and get out.
Landing safely, they must now track more than 15 kilometres over rugged terrain. The night vision goggles, the only source of illumination. Their mission is an enemy target stockpiled with munitions. Ahead lies the certainty they will encounter enemy forces somewhere along the way.
You know it's going to come thick and fast, and you don't know when it's going to end.
Live ammunition will be used throughout, and like an actual mission, the soldiers have no idea when the enemy will appear or from where. But after 3 hours, there's still been no sign of the enemy, and now the target is at hand. Checking all is clear, the patrol commander commits to going in. While some soldiers trade fire with the enemy, the rest of the patrol lay their charges. Working calmly among the confusion, the troopers complete their task and beat a textbook retreat. The next time they do this will be on foreign soil. The New Zealand SAS is an elite fighting unit, part of an international coalition. Often covertly, it deploys its troops all over the world, helping in humanitarian causes and more recently, the international war on terror. For 5 new troopers, recent world events are about to become a reality.
In an environment where a decision might need to be taken very quickly, within 24 hours, people can be on a plane and heading to the destination where their services may be needed.
The troopers must now play a waiting game. Will they be among those chosen if the government asks the NZ SAS to be deployed?
Everyone joins a unit to go on operations. You know, it's what everyone aspires to do.
And so they wait.
You started off at the beginning with the selection, holding on to my Belgian beret, deciding that this was going to be a career for me, and realising that I don't want to go anywhere else.
2 years of training feel short compared to waiting for news.
We didn't publicise what we did, and we had language to cover what we did to our families. You know, they just knew when we went over the hill, or language like that.
When these chaps went somewhere, the wives didn't even know they were on an exercise or it was for real, let alone where they were. They just didn't know.
Everything you've done for the last however many years you're in SAS is up for this.
Finally, the orders come through.
1 minute, you know, you're waiting out to hear who's going. Next minute, yeah, you're going, you're on a plane, let's go.
All 5 troopers are going on their first deployment. Over 50 years ago, Major Frank Rennie trained the original NZ SAS force to deploy overseas in the name of New Zealand. Now, half a century later, 5 more troopers take their place in this elite lineup.
That's what you've trained for the last 2 years to get out there and put it all to good use.
It's like an All Black sticking a black jersey on, or a guy sticking a black jersey on for the first time.
You're here to do your job, and that's what gives you all your satisfaction, is doing your job and doing it the best you can. Knowing that you are carrying on a legacy.
With maximum focus but minimum fuss, the 5 troopers load their equipment ready for imminent departure. Unlike conventional soldiers, there's no fanfare for this unit on deployment. What the NZ SAS has done in the past and will do in the future must remain a closely guarded secret, as these 5 are about to find out.
Given that the government and the SAS have a neither confirm or deny policy, we will never know the full extent of places to which these fellows are sent.
This is the moment when 5 troopers become NZ SAS soldiers.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.